Phelsuma standing eye, otherwise known as the Standings Day Gecko. Absolutely gorgeous species of day gecko, known for its neon blue tail and vibrant green head with a really cool, interesting pattern. However, before you embark on your standing day gecko journey, there are definitely some things you need to know before you get one. This is exactly why we're making this video today. Stick around while we talk about some fun facts about the Standings Day Geckos, and then of course some helpful tips that I think will help you along the way from owning this amazing species. Let's get into it. Kicking things off, let's start with number one, the flightiness of the standing eye. I've worked with quite a few different species of day gecko in my day. We started off with the giant day geckos, and then of course the Standings Day Geckos we've had for a little bit now. Now I'm more into the smaller slash micro species, the Clemeri, the neon day gecko, and then the lying day gecko, P. lineata. The thing I can definitely tell you after owning all of those species is the Standings Day Gecko is the most flighty, at least in my personal experience. The flightiness of my animals over here, I put it on like a 3-tier basis. Number one's going to be the easiest, things like, like crested geckos, most of my tokay geckos as well. It can get to the point where I can just do something like this. And then, oh, I need to go grab something, and I still just leave the door open and then go on and grab it and then bring it back because I know the animal's not going to go anywhere. Second level is going to be a little bit more flighty, stuff like my other day geckos, my anoles, things like that, where I can open the enclosure and do the misting and feedings, and I know they're not going to jump, but if I try to move something, I need to be cautious and aware because it's probably going to try to jump out of the enclosure. Then the third one is really where I put the standing eye at. That one's going to be, if I'm doing anything with my standing eye geckos, misting, changing the food out, dumping crickets, anything like that, I can only open one half of the Exoterra enclosure. I need at least one barrier. I got the misting in one hand and then my hand like this, making sure they don't try to run out during that time. Of course, just like any other species of animals, you can get good apples and bad apples. Maybe I just ended up with the bad apples. I've worked with quite a few, either short-term or long-term, like my personal pair now, and I can say there definitely is like a gradient between like what they do. I've had some that are a little bit more calm where I can put my hand in and they're not gonna dash as long as they have a dedicated hiding spot where they can secure to. However, at the end of the day, they're definitely a flighty animal that I would be cautious of when I'm doing anything inside of their enclosure. Look at what I'm getting at. If you're looking for an animal like the New Caledonian stuff that you can end up holding, if you want to like a nice little pet that you can hold, have it run around on you, have that be fun, I definitely would not recommend this animal. This animal makes a great display feature. Most day geckos do. Absolutely brilliant, vibrant colors, cool patterns, and just really cool structured animals. But at the end of the day, definitely a look, but don't touch. Unless you want to chase it for 45 minutes through your room while it goes everywhere. Yeah, they're geckos, brother. We're not worried about like, lizards that just, okay, I have to look here. No, you gotta look here, 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 there, over here. It's on my shoulder. Nah, it's behind the tank now. 0.7 seconds. Oh. Alright, we talked some smack about the day geckos, but now let's get into a really cool fact that is something I always enjoy with this species, and that's going to be number 2, they are somewhat of a communal species of gecko. Generality of breeding geckos, the vast majority of the time you are going to want to immediately separate the eggs from the parents, because if those eggs hatch inside the enclosure, the geckos have no parental instincts whatsoever, and they see a small species of them as the same as they would see a bug, and generally they do cannibalize and will then eat that baby. However, with Standings Day Geckos, that is different. You can actually keep the babies in with the adults. It's like my favorite species of gecko, the tokay gecko. The Standings Day Gecko will glue their eggs onto some sort of structure, whether that be like a cork flat, bamboo, or just the side of the glass. It's very difficult to get that out of. You do risk breaking the egg, so it is recommended that you just leave the egg in there until it does hatch. But we can actually take that one step further, where you can actually keep the babies in with the parents and they won't prey upon them. Although I did place similarities between the tokay gecko and the standing egg geckos in this way, do not get it confused. They are not a parental species of gecko in any way, shape, or form. Not going to show any motherly instincts like the tokay geckos. They're not going to teach them to hunt, anything like that. However, they don't see them as food, so you can actually end up leaving the gecko in there with the parents for a couple of weeks to a month. Perhaps communal isn't the right word. While you can keep the babies in with the adults, I definitely wouldn't leave there for an extended amount of time. Most likely end up issues with geckos being territorial, males fighting each other, and and then fighting over the mate, things of that nature. So while it's not as cool as the Tokegekko, Tokegeckos still take the reign in my opinion when it comes to the parental instincts. I still think it is really cool that they have the intellectual capability to be able to understand that that is a baby and not food for them. And real quick, boys and girls, before we continue on with today's video, I just want to take a second and talk about the website. When it comes to display geckos like a Standing Day Gecko, you're going to want to do it justice, and that is of course utilizing something like a bioactive vivarium. Just so happens the man that's talking in front of a camera that is talking to you on a website actually also has a bioactive store. We're at Dakota Blue Exotics. We have everything you'll need for a bioactive vivarium, including a variety of tropical plants, arid plants, we got air plants, we got bromeliads, all of the good stuff, a variety of substrate mixtures, leaf litters, cleanup crew, everything you need to build a perfect vivarium for an amazing display gecko. If that's something that interests you, I have a link right down in the description, or you can simply go to dakotablueexotics.com. Thank you guys so much. If you get some stuff, it helps us do everything we're doing over here, making some great content and keeping cool geckos. I very much appreciate it. Let's get back into the video. Whoosh. Moving on, let's get into the next topic at hand. One that I find a little bit interesting and one that I think a lot of people should know if they want to get into the Standings Day Gecko, and that is going to be number 3. This is... I'm trying to figure out how do I phrase into like a topic at hand. This is a drier, arider gecko. Number 3, gecko care. Gecko species hails from southwest Madagascar in the dry forest regions, which means 2 different things. They're gonna want a little bit less humidity than what you would think for geckos, and they're gonna want it to be a little bit hotter. If this is something like New Caledonia and you're trying to make the jump from that, you've owned like crested gargoyles, things like that, and now you wanna move on to stuff like day geckos, the care requirements are going to be a little bit different. They are gonna be a species that do require UVB. They are going to be a species that requires heating because they do like it relatively warm comparatively to going back to like the New Caledonian geckos. It is a species that likes it a little bit less humid. I'm not comparing it to like the arid species, you know, this isn't like a bearded dragon, this isn't a frog-eyed gecko where you're gonna want very low style humidity comparatively speaking, but it's not gonna be something that's gonna want, it's going to constantly want that like 80% high humidity. You're gonna want to keep it on a little bit more of a lower end. See over here for most of our geckos, our new cows, our tokays, everything like that, mist around 2 to 3 times a day to make sure our humidity stays at that point where we want it. However, when it comes to our Standings Day geckos, we only mist once a day to make sure they still have a water option, they're still able to get the droplets out of the water, but that humidity doesn't increase and stay at those higher levels for a prolonged period of time. If you go to the old reliable Google, you will find a ton of conflicting information on this topic at hand. You can get anywhere from the regular, you know, just like New Caledonian, to 60 to 80%, you'll hear, you know, 40 to 60%, you'll hear 30 to 90%, so on and so forth. I keep mine relatively around the 45 to 70% humidity. I find that works good for me. The geckos do well. They've been doing well for that method. With this, I'm mostly looking for where they go in the location or where the region they're from and just checking out what the humidity looks like that instead of just taking a look at any random care guide. Anecdotally, I found this to be a lot more imperative when it comes to like hatchlings and juveniles, babies, instead of the adults. They can definitely handle a lot more mixture with their husbandry needs. However, when it comes to like over misting too much humidity, it can be fatal for the babies. Personally, I would just keep that in mind. Don't want to keep them too dry, but also at the other end, you don't want to keep them too wet and too humid. Finally, the last topic at hand that we will be talking about today, one that is a bit of a bummer, but it can be the case with actually most species, not just specifically Standing Eye. However, it's something you should know, and that's going to be number 4, the baby colors do not last in most cases. Now, when you first see a Standing Eye baby, man, it is a beautiful thing. It's so hard to say the most beautiful because there are so many amazing colorful species of day gecko out there. However, it is definitely a top contender. Like we mentioned, vibrant blue tail, almost I call it a zebra-like zigzag pattern, neon green head going on. It's a showstopper, honestly. It stops the shows when I have my babies on my table. It is gorgeous. However, something that I find is the babies will grow out of those vibrant colors and they do end up dulling out over time. Not 100% sure on this, but I have found just personally for me that my males seem to keep their colors a lot better than the females. I might have just gotten some bad females and good males over my years of doing this, and that just seems to be the case. But something I've definitely found is that at those amazing baby colors, but over time, they don't keep them usually. Unlike other species of gecko, Gay geckos. Unlike other species of day geckos, you know, the lying day gecko, the giant day gecko, the neon day gecko, where when it hatches out, you're getting what you're getting. It's gonna look like that as a baby. 17 years from now, it's gonna look like the exact same gecko, pretty much. Standing Day Gecko does go through a change where it does dull out, unfortunately. A bit of a big bummer, but it is still cool to, at least for those couple of years, get to see those gorgeous colors inside your home. And there you got it. I absolutely love these Standings Day Geckos. I think they make absolutely fantastic display pets, especially when set up properly, when they have multiple horizontal and vertical edges to climb on. They're definitely a lot more out in the open. Soaking the UVB helps brighten those colors and make them vibrant. Even if they don't keep them as adults, I still think they were a fantastic looking species. If you guys want to check out some more videos we have on day geckos, here's a playlist right here and a video right here that I think is really cool. As always, thank you so much for taking the time of your day to follow us over here at Dakota Blue Exotics. I will see you guys next time, but until then, goodbye.